with you guys. Guys, there has been a lot that has happened in Blizzard Esports in the past week and a half, happening right now. There's much to get into. Let's get into it.
So much happening.
Norchetta, what have you got for us this weekend?
I got this pretty new mic I got. Look at it. It's pretty. I like it. It makes me sound pretty.
It's so professional.
More importantly, though, so professional. I know, right? More importantly, coming up this weekend, we've been kind of in the off season since the playoffs ended. In the last week, we did have a little bit of contenders like the Tier 2 scene going on, but what's going on right now, starting tonight, is the first round of the World Cups stages. So we're looking at the Incheon, Korea, which is going to have 6 teams competing in stage 1 of 4 to see who the top teams going to compete at the tournament at BlizzCon are. So I'm going to be getting into that a little bit later. Teams to look out for, matches to look out for, what times they're going to be at, and really some players to look out for.
And so, is this one stage of multiple stages that this is played in?
Yes. This is going to be there are 4 different stages. One's going to be in South Korea, one's going to be in the US, one's going to be in Thailand, and one's going to be in France. And these they start this weekend, and they run on different weekends all the way up until mid to late September. So we got a lot coming every couple weeks. We're going to have the All-Star weekend fit into there. I'm going to hold off on talking too much about All-Star stuff because that's enough right there to be its own thing. There's a lot of fun stuff coming up for that, but we got a lot of, even though the first season of the league is over, we still got a lot of Overwatch coming up.
Right, that's awesome.
So what's going on? I know we got some results to talk about with Heroes, though, right?
Yes, actually, so in Professional Heroes of the Storm, we're right in the middle of back-to-back mid-season LAN tournaments. The Western Clash, which was the top 4 of Europe versus the top 4 of North America, was this past weekend, and the Eastern Clash, which is the top 4 of Korea versus the top 4 of China, is actually the first match is being played right now. It just started 14 minutes ago, so we're in the thick of it.
Well, let's get on this.
You're right. So, okay, I guess the first thing I'll talk about then is the result of the Western Clash from this past weekend. But as I think I probably mentioned before going into it, as not a surprise to anyone, Dignitas was the repeat Western Clash winners for this tournament.
Okay, yeah, that seemed like you were pretty confident that was going to happen.
They did not drop a single map. They went straight through. Not a map did they drop. The closest they came was, I think, map 2 against Method. It was on Infernal Shrines. There was like a core race, and Method lost the core race. That was the closest anyone got from taking something from them.
Now, what's your opinion on this? Is that like because we run into this stuff? We ran into this a little bit in Overwatch with how dominant New York was in season 1, and that got shaken up at the end of the season. But how do you feel about teams that just run it on people, like they don't lose a single map? Is that concerning, saying that certain teams are so much more highly skilled than others? Do you think it was just a happenstance with a meta and how they were performing, or is that a problem, or is that just something that happened to happen?
Now that you're asking me that, it's really interesting because what I've also previously said, and I'm going to reiterate, is that so in Korea there's like the top 3 teams, and there pretty much no one ever comes close to these top 3 teams. And it's been that way for like as long as I've been watching the league, which I started last fall. I'm coming up, I guess, on my 1-year anniversary of watching HGC. But and for that reason, I find it like not very competitive to watch. But having just said that, I have like no problem at all with the dominance of Dignitas, because in Europe, there's still enough competition and uncertainty under it that you definitely don't know who are going to be spots 2 through 4, and depending on how the rosters are sitting at the moment, how the meta is, and who's what heroes it favors, and what players are really good at the players that are really good at the heroes that are currently meta. But I think Dignitas, just the way that they are so dominant, and how the reason that Dignitas is so dominant is because people call it the hive mind. They are just 5 guys that are just 100% locked in on the same goal, and that is we want to win a world championship, because they've like multiple times now come just short of it, getting second place over and over, and like for them to be so dominant in Europe but to still not like get to lift the BlizzCon trophy, it really like is eating them. And so like they're just singularly driven to accomplish this. Like it's robotic like, and that's like anyone that wants to have a shot at them, it means like, dude, this is the work they're putting in. You're going to have to put in something to match that if you want to have a hope of beating them. And so it like raises the level of everyone around them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the two words, get good, you know?
Yeah.
But that actually, that almost exact scenario has been taking place in the Korean Contenders League with the team Runaway, which is one of the few teams that didn't have like a big sponsorship or corporate backing, and they've been just a scrappy fan favorite, and they keep
the pink sweatshirts
the pink yes, they keep getting on the cusp of winning. They've gotten like almost there, they were tasting it, and it just kept falling through for them. And several changes came out. The team was expected to fall apart at one point, and the owner, or the guy who started the team, his wife stepped up and said, you know what, no, we can't just give up on these guys. And like they ended up out of pocket buying them like a team house and giving them everything they needed to practice. Like no corporate sponsor or anything like that. They just said like these guys deserve to do this. And then the guy who started the team had to go away on his he got conscripted into the military, so he had to leave, and they filled in the thing, and his wife actually ended up taking over and like managing the team, and they're both amazing. The team's amazing. It's that there's so much love for that team, both in Korea and abroad, to see them fail so many times and then go through, and it was the best of 7, and they ended up going eight matches, and God, it was so good. But yeah, just to see a team like that who's been on the cusp and almost won, finally like be so dominant and get there is it feels good. And yeah, at a certain point it feels good to watch someone not lose a map when you feel like they deserve it now. You know?
Exactly. Dignitas going through and not dropping a map, like I don't have a problem with that, because I look at that and I'm like, they bust their ass so hard for this, man. Like they deserve to plow through, because that is the mark of excellency that they are chasing, and like I gotta applaud that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, good for them. They're working their asses off, and it's working apparently.
Actually, there's been some really interesting reading coming out of this. I've outcrapped a brick, and that because you know that Overwatch League is getting involved with ESPN starting next year. ESPN ran an article about the Western Clash because it took place in Los Angeles, so they ran an article about how Dignitas and Team Liquid were the only two European teams that came and did a boot camp in North America, scrimming against the North America teams, and like they trashed the North American teams. But and then so they did like basically a comparison reporting on Dignitas's boot camp and Heroes Hearth, the #1 NA seeds boot camp, and how like they had drastically different results and like different pathways that they took in the tournament. But I was kind of blown away to see ESPN running an article on Professional Heroes of the Storm. But it kind of sparked a discussion of, there's been a lot of people asking about like, you know, why is NA struggling against Europe for so long now, considering that like in 2016, I guess it was, like the earliest NA teams, like NA won the first HGC BlizzCon tournament. So like they got glory early, and then they've just kind of like, they haven't been able to do much with it since. They didn't like propel to higher grounds, and there's a lot of people that were talking about like there's a mental difference and an attitude difference between the regions of like Dignitas is a 5-man unit working towards a singular goal, whereas in North America there's so frequently such individual personalities trying to come together and play together and like gain cohesiveness. And we're always like, they try for a phase, and like if it doesn't work, then we're on the carousel swapping people around. So like there's not really a chance to get cohesion at any point.
Yeah, and that's something that's really interesting that you touched on and brought up about that I've run into watching Overwatch and in watching a little bit and hearing you talk about Heroes, is for these international teams to compete against one another. I mean, we see in traditional sports with things like the Olympics and like the World Cup, but the differences in we sometimes forget how different the attitudes are in different regions of the world, and like and how people practice and what their mentality is, and to hear that, to hear that Europe is so dominant, and North America has these issues with cohesion, and it's just completely different styles. It's not like the same kind of people just thinking a little bit different. It's completely different attitudes about how it's supposed to work, and North America seems to be struggling because, yeah, if you have a bunch of individual personalities that they keep trying to cycle around to find what fits, it's hard to find the time for everything to mesh.
Right, there's a difference in mentality, and I think that I was actually thinking about this either yesterday or earlier today about there's a difference in, I guess I would call it, accountability, and that like in proximity to one another. So like in North America, the only team that like lives together essentially is Tempo Storm, where they all live out on the West Coast together now. But every other team, like, they are split across all the United States. So whenever they're playing on the weekends, they're playing from wherever they live. Like across the U.S. coming together.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, and so it's one thing to be playing like states apart, but in Europe they're also playing like internationally apart. They're living in different countries, playing with one another. So I didn't really ever think about or appreciate a distinct advantage South Korea has in just like every one of their players being localized to this small little island, and like there's some proximity of like we can get together and we can be together all the time, and we're in the coaching rooms together, we're in the replay rooms together, we're like person to person challenging each other. There's accountability in that proximity.
Yeah, I was actually gonna check and see like from Seoul to Busan, which is like northwest to southeast. Let me see what the actual distance here is. Like 3 hours. You can get across the country in 3 hours.
Yeah.
And you can take a plane across the country in under an hour. 40
and so
minutes.
And then you combine that with there's also legitimately organizational differences in that, like, you know, Korea embraced this long ago, and they have multiple organizations that are like, here's the house, here's your practice schedule, here's when you show up for replays, here's like, it is just extremely structured, and it is very much a job. So, yeah. And so Europe, like Dignitas is one of those organizations, Fnatic would be one of those organizations, like, Europe has a few really great pro esports organizations also, but NA is pretty sorely lacking. Like, there's Tempo Storm, and like everyone else is just kind of like an upstart from something. There's not a lot. There's not really a history of discipline from that regard.
There's certain South Korea is definitely like the main one when it comes to being esports being an accepted part of the culture there. But even in Europe, I mean, places like Finland and stuff, like it's just as prevalent. Like things like esports are accepted as something. It's something that the U.S. seems to be starting to come around on a little bit more. Like you were talking about with the ESPN stuff, like they're starting to get there, and we're. It seems like even in the last couple of years, this year and last year, they finally started to get some big investors that the people who scoff at the idea of, you know, professional video games. There's finally people stepping in that go, no man, screw that attitude. It's gonna catch, so I'm putting my professional money behind it because you need to get over that attitude, and that's gonna. Just that cultural attitude, that
I was going to say, like, to be honest, really there's a rabbit hole that you can go down of, like, there's the business perspective, and then there's like the cultural perspective American, and the business one is also uniquely American, but like, because in America there is such a culture related to sports of like masculinity and physicality, and so like how you say, keepers of the gate of professional sports, you know, they're all these, like, hyper-masculine dudes, and, like, when they were growing up, they used to wail on the nerds playing video games, so you can't,
the future is now, old man.
Right, there's a pushback of, like, granting some legitimacy to that from the people that have been professional sports players in America.
Yeah, and even talking about just general cultural differences, I've been trying to learn Korean, and I've been doing a lot of like cultural immersion and like trying to study a lot of the culture alongside the
Yeah.
language. And one thing that I've really picked up on that has kind of clued me into why they're able to accomplish so much and why they're so much, just bluntly, why they're so much better than everyone is Korea in general has been for decades huge about efficiency and work.
Mm-hmm.
Like most of like pick an industry, and like Korea is one of those places where they will make whatever you want, they will do it well, and they will pump those out. They're not great about having and this is changing, but they don't seem to be great about having a lot of unique ideas, like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of, which has changed recently. A lot of the music scene has grown a lot. The
Right.
film scene and has grown a lot. K dramas and K-pop and stuff. But like when Hyundai started, they were building ships, and they built ships for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
The animation studios in Korea, a lot of the anime that in even American animation that you watch is actually animated in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
They don't tend to do their own animation, but they will bust their ass getting it done efficiently and doing it well. And just that cultural attitude of pick a goal and work until you do it is just so ingrained. It's not like try to be clever, try to do this, come at it this way. No, it's work. You work until you do it.
Right, exactly. This is also very much a thing in Japan that I can say from like having lived there. Is the word is kaizen, which is like perpetual improvement. Like there's a mentality of like never be satisfied. Like
Right.
there's always something to fix. There's always something to gain. There's always something that can be done better, and always look for that thing.
And always be willing to not only improve yourself and always be looking to improve, but if there's something you can get out of something, or you can choose a different path and it helps everyone, it helps the country, it helps the community, you do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
You help the country, you help the people. And that's regrettably something that I feel like we're lacking over here.
We also you cannot deny there's a difference in attitude about like the community versus the individual, and obviously that has to have some effect on group dynamics that are correlated to success and failure.
Yeah, exactly. But and which all ties back to, it doesn't matter what it is. We just happen to be talking about esports, but pick anything, and
Yeah.
these things are going to apply to it. But that really that gives a lot of insight as to, if you're ever wondering why a South Korean esports team is just so dominant in so many games, it's because of this: do the work, work until you get it, always be improving, and do what's better for the group, not just what's better for you. And that attitude, those cultural attitudes, and the acceptance of applying that to esports and video games in that country, just the acceptance of technological innovation and understanding that this is just the new normal, has really propelled them, and everyone else is playing catch up, because the cultural attitudes that were baked in over there have really proven to lead them to success. And I honestly think the only reason you don't see that so much in somewhere like Japan is, frankly, no one has PCs. They're all
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I actually think this is like a pretty good transition point for. I'll say a couple more things. So yeah, all of this being said, America did not perform well at all. Freedom was the one that went the furthest.
Freedom.
Tempo Storm was out in the first day. Heroes Hearthplay, they struggled through some of their performances, but the MVP of the tournament has to go to Mopsio, the tank player of the Leftovers, who, remember I said before this is the team that was in dead last place at the end of the last phase of European HGC, had to play in the Crucible, won the right to stay back in there. Some roster swaps happened. Mopsio goes from the Zealots, who were the number 4 seed at the previous Western Clash, and came up number 2 to Dignitas. He gets knocked down to this other team, and again takes them from the number 4 seed to the grand finals against Dignitas. And like, Dignitas is just crushing their way through the tournament, and they're asking them like, guys, is there anyone that you're worried about at all? And they're like, No, not really, honestly. There's only Method, and we already took care of them. The only thing that remains now is Mopsio is always lurking behind us, just like coming to grab at us. No, they didn't have to go all the way in a best of 7 like they did in the first time. Like, they still 4-0 swept them, but like you just got to give a shout out to Mopsio is a great dude, and it's pretty incredible to see that he's done this twice in a row, taking just through sheer will and like leadership, taking a team that was struggling and brought them success.
Yeah, it's leadership can do a lot in situations like this, but I mean, like you were saying, just props to them for if you can get a team that is so dominant to even just say, look, we're kicking everyone's ass, but we're still worried about this team that was in last place and kind of had a surge, and we're legitimately aware of them. Like that's a lot. That says a lot.
Yeah. So, since we were spending so much talking about Asia, I will now quickly talk about the Eastern Clash that, as I said, is happening right now. And what I'm going to say about this is not a lot, to be honest, because it's going to be Gen G. Like it's so weird to me. I was mentioning this to you previously about it's a little weird to me. It feels a little bit hypocritical, I guess, in that in the Western Clash, everyone knew Dignitas was going to win. Like, that was never really in question. It was just a matter of, like, how hard were they going to win and what is everybody else going to do. But, like, in Korea, it's that plus more. Like, that is just the, like, that is the difference in ability between Gen G and then the, like, next 2 teams under them and then everybody else. So the 8 teams that are competing in the Eastern Clash right now, it's the exact same teams that competed in the last one in almost the exact same seeding position as the last one. And so, yeah, it's going to play out I was looking at the standings earlier, and so Gen G and Tempest are both 6-1. Ballistics is 5-2. So, like, Ballistics, I think, lost to both Gen G and Tempest. The only team that Gen G lost to so far is one that's surprisingly, they had to go all the way to the best of 5, lost 2-3 to a team called Miracle that just missed out on getting into this Eastern Clash. So it was kind of a weird thing, but
weird, yeah, that they lost to a team, but they made it and the other one didn't.
Yeah, but that happened, but it's not really going to mean anything. It's going to be Gen G carrying away the whole thing, and so yeah, that's what's going to happen this weekend in Heroes of the Storm. So with that being the case, I'm much more interested in hearing about what's going to happen.
Sweep it. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, so I'm much more interested in what can possibly be happening in Overwatch World Cup.
Okay, so like I was saying before, this is there's going to be 4 stages in different parts of the world that'll eventually end up in a tournament that takes place at BlizzCon from the top performers. The first leg of this journey starts technically but it's taking place in South Korea. So what that means is if you're living in the US, that starts at 11 p.m. Eastern and ends at probably like 8 a.m. Eastern. So
for you it's night owls out there.
Late couple nights for me. I'm going to see how much I can do. There's a couple of games that I really want to see, and I'll get into which ones those are. But like they're coming in at like 3:15 in the morning or like 5 a.m. So we'll see how well I do. I might just be watching VODs. Might just check out some highlights. But what we're looking at is I'm gonna pull up a schedule. I think you have one that you can actually pull up.
Yeah.
Do you?
I can swap to this. There we go.
Okay, so yeah, this is the schedule that I'm using is set to Eastern Standard Time. So if you want to adapt that to wherever you're from, but the teams that we have that are going to be playing are Russia, Finland, Japan, South Korea, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. I mean Chinese Taipei. Right. And and you should see the flag that Chinese Taipei is using. I swear it looks like a Smash Brothers logo. But the thing about this stage is this is the stage that has South Korea in it. And as we were just going over, South Korea is dominant when it comes to esports. Overwatch is no exception. So when you look at the rosters of these teams, I mean, I can kind of go over them and mention, when you look at, let's say, Russia, You're gonna have your players, you're gonna have your coaches, and there's gonna be 2 players that are actually in the league. You have Shadowburn, who is on the San Francisco Shock, and you have Mistakes, who's on the Boston Uprising.
Mhm.
So 2 of their players are in Overwatch. The other ones they've picked up from probably contenders or off the ladder, some high ranking, or from tournaments, open division, things like that. But they got a couple of those players. Then you look at Finland, and the Finland's another one I was talking about. That in Europe they're one of the big countries that's very accepting, and they actually have 5 players coming in from the Overwatch League.
Oh wow!
And
I didn't realize that there was that many Finnish people in the league this year.
Yeah, Finland actually. Florida Mayhem actually brought in a lot of people from a lot of Finnish people. So Zupe and Zappis are going to come in from Mayhem. Linkster from the Houston Outlaws is going to come in.
Oh, nice.
Right? Taimu from the Dallas Fuel is going to be there, and Fraggy is going to be tanking. One of my favorite tanks is going to be stepping up. So they have a good base. You also have and Big Goose and Shaz. Like I completely forgot about the Gladiators members on there. So I mean, you're literally looking at 7 total people of the entire crew that are going to be from Overwatch League. So you're immediately looking at them going, these guys have been playing this league. They're very well versed. They're very well practiced. When it comes Russia versus, let's say, a Japan, who literally they're I don't think there are any Japanese players playing in the OWL.
I don't think so.
You're looking at that going, they might be good, but are they to this next level? And then you look at South Korea, where literally every damn person on the team is not only in OWL, they are like the top of the league. So it's terrifying to be facing these people. It's a good portion of New York Excel players. I mean, what do we got? We had Jonak, who was the MVP of the season. Libero, Sabiolbi, Animo, Meko. Those are all from NYXL. Then kind of peppered with other players. A couple people from Valiant, couple people from, and then a person from Fleta from Dynasty, Carpe from Philly, and then Fury from London. So they're just stacked. So you got Russia with a couple people. You got Finland with several people. You got South Korea, who is completely stacked. And then you have Japan, Hong Kong, and Chinese Taipei, who, while they don't have any players, what we were just talking about earlier is that doesn't necessarily mean that they can't come like leftovers. They can't. It doesn't mean they can't come from behind. And the last year, from what I understand, because I was not into it enough to be watching the World Cup last year, but last year, from what I understand, Russia actually took a map or 2 off of South Korea. So that's actually one of the matches I'm interested in seeing is Russia versus South Korea. I'm also interested in seeing Finland versus South Korea.
For sure.
They're not quite as stacked, but they still got a lot of players, and they are very good players. A lot of those players, Linkster is considered, one of the top Widowmakers. Taimu is considered, when he is on, I would put him over Linkster. He's very hit or miss depending on how he's feeling, but when he's on, he's terrifying. And I absolutely believe that he could that any of these players on this team could step up and take down the South Korean team if they're performing and South Korea doesn't quite have it all together.
Right, because as you were just saying, like, a number of these people are XL, and as we've talked about before, people have questioned that considering the little bit of sputtering that XL had in the last phase, and, Prophet's last streak through the finals with London, but also the fact that this Contenders team you were talking about played against them and, gave them a scare, right?
Oh, they didn't give them a scare. Runaway beat them.
Right? Exactly.
Korea national team. Now, I don't think that's actually as shocking as it may seem. Runaway's been practicing and they just got off of a big run, whereas the South Korean national team, they've kind of taken time off from playing since the league ended. They've had some practices, I'm sure.
Right, because it started when? January? Or was it actually late December that it started?
The actual season 1 technically started in January, but they had preseason games in December.
Yeah, that's 7 months essentially is a marathon for these guys.
So they're getting back on the horse, but I wasn't actually too surprised that Runaway won. just and I think that it was a pretty good game. They both performed, and I don't think that really says anything negative about South Korea. But the two biggest takeaways from just all of these stages is twofold. One is to definitely see who's going to be at the World Cup coming up, and to keep an eye on some of these matches, like let's say Finland versus South Korea. That's going to be tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Eastern.
Wow.
And then let's see what else. Russia versus Japan. I've actually heard good things. I've never actually seen any Japanese players play. I'm looking forward to seeing that. That should prove to be good. And then Russia versus South Korea, which is going to be 3:15 or 4:15 a.m. on Sunday morning. So these are going to be really good games to watch. I think of this stage, we're going to see good things out of South Korea and Russia, Japan and Finland, and I think Hong Kong and Taiwan are definitely going to drop off. But
so, of the 6 teams that are in the set, is it the top 2, the top 3 that go out?
I think it's the bottom 2 drop, and it's okay. I think it's a 16-team bracket. It may be an 8-team bracket. I knew that probably like 10 minutes ago, and I'm just blanking on it. But of these teams, I'd say top 2. I'd probably say South Korea and Finland, and then followed by Russia and Japan, and then Taiwan and Hong Kong at the bottom. But again, Japan, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, I don't know a lot of these players. I don't know what they're capable of, and I look really forward to seeing them. And that brings me really to the other side of what we're looking for here, is that we're still in the open signing window for Season 2, for existing teams and for expansion teams. And these, like I said, South Korea is stacked, so it's going to be fun watching them pop off. But then you have other teams that are sending their best players that don't have a team.
Right.
These are potentially people that if they do well enough in the next few weeks, we're going to be seeing them come January.
Right. This is an audition stage for a lot of people.
Yeah, this is my Atlanta team that I'm going to have in a few months, and I'm so happy about. These could be the people on my team. These could be these people that are popping off could be the people that I'm going to be cheering for in a few months. So I'm really interested in it doesn't matter what team it is. It doesn't matter if it's a team that's not necessarily going to, the team cohesion isn't going to be enough to beat, your South Koreas or anything. That doesn't mean that some of these individual players aren't talented enough to get signed to teams. And I'm really interested to keep my eye on some of these players that aren't signed yet. But that's pretty much it for this weekend. That's really what I want to focus on, and I'm going to try to keep some notes about players that have impressed me and kind of some results, and then we'll kind of go over that. I do want to talk about the All-Star Weekend, which I'll probably get into next weekend or next week when we do this. There will be a little lull between stages of the World Cup. But yeah, I should be able to report back on some things that happened this weekend. All-Star Weekend, that's going to be a blast when that comes up. There's going to be a Widowmaker tournament, so the top Widows and OWL are going to be going against each other, which is going to be hilarious and awesome. They're doing casters and analysts versus each other, so nice. All of the casters and analysts, which is really funny because you have certain casters and analysts who are like gold, or like Monty, one of the casters. I think he said he just doesn't really play, but I think he's been playing recently and he's been doing pretty well. But then on the other side, you have someone like Reinforce, who is he's one of the desk analysts. He's actually playing on I think it's I think he's from Norway. He's on their national team, so he's kind of top. So you have grandmasters going up against golds, but they're trying to balance the teams. So when you're playing, you're like, okay, if we all group up like this and we push in together and we do this and this and that, we should win this fight. And then there's someone kind of screwing off around a building, running in circles. We're going to be seeing that, and I can't wait. This is stuff that is going to carry into insults for next year of people making fun of people for what they did at this event. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, that sounds super exciting. I'm also very hyped to see the outcome out of this. See, because I don't know these commentators as well as you do. I'm sure, because you watch more of the games than I do, but I still watch a fair amount of the games. So I know some of these goofballs, and I'm I've got to see how they play this game.
That's something I really actually enjoy about just to kind of go back to just esports in general is I'm married and I watch this stuff in my living room with my wife and kid, and my wife doesn't play Overwatch. She doesn't know all the ins and outs. She watches with me and she's picked up a lot. She really has, but she still really enjoys watching it with me because of those crazy personalities, because of those casters, and because of the just the celebration of everything happening and how hyped they get about everything. And it really reminds me how important those personalities are to these organizations, to these esports.
Well, so that's all I had for the week. I think you had well, I take that back. There was one other thing that I kind of wanted to show to close this out. Can you see Twitch chat? I'm just going to send you the link to it. This is an HGC match in the Australia region, which is one of the minor regions. Ended in 2 minutes. It's like one of the fastest HGC matches ever. Yes. So like it's that's the whole VOD. The timestamp for this particular fight is at 48 minutes and 46 seconds.
48, 46, you said?
Yeah.
All right.
And so I kind of just wanted to play this. I haven't actually got to watch it yet, but you'll see what's going on. So on the blue team, we got Phoenix, Gazlo, Vala, Zul, and Zarya. So we have like a lot of wave clear and siege damage potential inside of blue. And for the red, we have Zul'jin, Chen, Raynor, Greymane, and Tassadar. Again, some pretty high damage output, able to clear through some enemies and some structures really quickly. Blue team doesn't even actually have a true healer. They only have Zarya, and then Tassadar is the sole healer for the blue team. So I'm just going to start the playback for this now.
Vala, Lakadog flexing with his favorite Gazlo, and Altivian on Phoenix.
And with Xylophone dudes on the red side, we have Flaze playing Zul'jin, Bouncy on Chen, Sailor playing Raynor, Tommy on Greymane, and Sarah Lee playing that Tassadar. Their team composition for Xylophone dudes, it just screams damage right there. And if you aren't fast enough in racing them down, really the sustained damage, like the longer the fight goes on.
So their full team commits, like both teams go to opposite lanes. There's no one meeting anyone in the lanes. They're going around the walls. They're going straight for the core.
This does favor doing siege such as this, but it also does phase or favor.
No one's coming back to like fight them off. They're both just committing to these structures.
You're all facing base race.
Oh,
is this like My Freak Crimson with a 6-minute game?
Yeah, but this is actually a base race, so that's what they both dropped.
This is a base race. They're about to try to core race each other from the start of the game.
Went for the wall, whereas
you know what?
Xylophone dudes are smashing this one though.
You don't need a healer.
Right, exactly. It's so like that matters now. That time.
When you come up to this point here, this is going to be the hardest part. All right, who's your money on right now, Skimmy?
Oh my god.
My money would have to be on Xylophone dudes because they have a lot of damage. They have the empowerment in Raynor, but Chen is
and while he does this, he has a shield, so he's just tanking like 4 shots while he's drinking. But Gazlo's down, Chen is down, so one is down on both teams now.
Right.
Xylophone dudes are not, though. They are really hurt by the fact that they have no tank. They're all going to fall down.
Bouncy, he's back
He has no.
And in true gentleman's fashion,
he is walking around but still dead. That's...
Andy, how do you analyze this?
You died, that's why I said you take bets.
This is absolutely
Bacons are available, ladies and gentlemen, so let's see.
he just leaves, he doesn't care.
And yeah, so now there's a blue has the XP because they got the key.
See, that's a red, that's a yellow card right there.
With no true support though, this is actually really hard to do, but they're on towards support. The shield is
See,
gone.
exactly. That is Zarya is like historic for being involved in cheese compositions like this, where you just run it down a lane and just blast the crap out of whatever's in front of you.
2 minutes and 3
Zarya
seconds, and Aztec say goodbye.
2 minutes and 3 seconds.
And so, like, what wound up happening here is it's because the Chen died. The tank for the red team, he died first, and so there was no one else that could tank the shots from the structure, and so that was why Greymane died, and so that was why, like, the blue team was able to push through and get the keep and get onto the core, while the red team could not finish getting down the keep in time. and lost the base race. But just HGC Australia, there was a gentleman's base race that happened.
Is there a reason why when the red team what was that, Xylophone dudes, is that right? When they had the people who died that respawned, like their core was getting attacked and they pretty much just like hightailed it past them. Is there a reason where they were just going to die if they tried to defend it and they just wanted to try to rush it? They didn't think that the other team would be able to push.
Real quick, actually, to try to see this.
Because like it definitely like they're attacking the blue team was attacking the core.
It
seemed like some red players finally like.
Is this like Mindfreak Crimson with a 6-minute game?
They both have the fort down.
Okay, but actually,
Blue's on the keep, but Chen is dead right now. And Gazlo, well, he didn't just, well, yeah, he just died because it's still super early game, so the death timers are super low. So Gazlo's dead, but Chen is dead, so that's what I was saying. They don't have a tank down at the enemy keep anymore to tank the shot, so this is what winds up causing Greymane to
They are really hurt by the fact that they have
Chen respawns first, and so Chen's the only one, yeah, he's the only one back here. He can't stop 5 of them versus 1 of him. So he's running out, but I guess he's going to try to rejoin his team to, you know, hopefully by the time he gets there, they're through the keep and they're onto the core. But now, yeah, see, they've called the retreat. They know that the fact that their keep is down, but that they don't even have the enemy keep at like, they have maybe a quarter of this keep's health off. There's no way that they are going to kill the other team's core before their core is dead, so they have to all hearth back now. But basically, when Chen respawned, it was like, what could he do?
Killing them. Okay, well, that makes sense then. That makes sense. That's just weird to see.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of like when he died, they're in the situation now of like, well, what can we do now? Like, surely neither of them expected it, and it's like. I don't think they planned it necessarily. Like, they just both went for it. So it's such an uncommon situation to be in. Like, you can't just immediately figure out what to do to recover from that moment, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But, all right, yeah, that's all I got. We'll sign off for now. One thing I wanted to say as we're signing off, the normal shout-outs, you know, follow us on Twitter. I every week tweet out whenever we're going to do this, and I tag Norchetto so that you can find him there. I post this on YouTube. You can find that link below the stream on my channel. You can also find it on Norchetto's channel. But we're just going to say, we're just 2 dudes. We love the games and the communities. We just want to share the passion that we have for the games and give it back to the community. We're really loving doing the segment, and we're really excited about sharing it with more people. So give us a follow. Look forward to more episodes.
Yeah, like, I mean, all things considered, like you said, I enjoy doing this. If we have, like, no one watch us, if a couple people watch us, I don't care. I enjoy talking about this stuff.
Exactly.
And I know on your channel you're doing a lot of like lessons and classes, both with language and with heroes stuff. On my channel, I'm trying to I'm really excited about the Atlanta team coming up for the Overwatch League, so I'm trying to produce a lot of content there. And I think we're about at the same place where, like, we're not doing this to get views right now. We're doing this because we legitimately enjoy it. So yeah. You know, if anybody has any insight into what you'd like to see, let us know. And, you know, not only do we love doing this, we'd love to do things that people want to see. So, yeah.
For sure. Comment, make suggestions, make requests, anything. We look forward to all of it. But until next time, guys, we'll see you then. See you later.